Welcome to the Love Pod, where inspiration, vision, and real connection come alive. Wherever you are, you belong here.
Welcome to the Love Pod, everyone. My name is Nathaniel. I'm your host for today, and we're so thrilled to have a special guest here, Ana Cristina Gordillo, who is joining us from the Magic Children's Box. Such an inspiring early childhood educator. You are a trained John Maxwell coach. You're a speaker. You're a trainer, and you have this beautiful, beautiful mission of helping people to do that inner work within so that we can really gather and connect and uplift the children in the world. And so I really appreciate you, Anna. I also will say, this is you were the first podcast that I was had the opportunity to be a guest on. So that's been such a beautiful uplifting of my journey and has been an inspiration for the Love Pod as well. So I want to thank you for that. And I'd just like to invite you to introduce yourself and let us know more about who you are.
Oh, thank you so much, Nathaniel. It is an honor for me to be here, especially since you mentioned that. I remember our first conversation about the podcast and everything, and I was like, yes, you should do it. You have so much to give. And now, for me being here with you, sharing this conversation, it's an honor. Thank you so much.
I appreciate you saying that. You have so much to give as well, and so much of our the calling that we've had in life is so parallel in so many ways. It's really around gathering around the children, honoring our own inner child. And so, tell us about what brought you to this work. Like, who are you, and why are you doing what you're doing?
Oh, that's a beautiful question. And it's been a journey. So it's been a journey, it's the moment when you realize you're always being guided your whole life, when everything starts to make sense. So very long story short, I remember I was on a Tony Robbins podcast and a Tony Robbins seminar, right? And then I realized all the tools that we learned during those seminars and everything, reading podcasts, it hit me and I was like, wow, it took me almost 30 years to learn this.
Hmm.
So I started to ask my friends, how long did it take you and everything? And I don't know why, but I'm usually the youngest between my friends. So it was like, oh, like 40 something, 50 something. I'm like, wow, this is so long, right? So I was like, this has to stop. And you know what? Something that I haven't shared on a podcast before is that it's also about my future children. When I have my children in the future, I don't want them to go through these moments and everything. I want them to have the tools because at some point I had this conversation between my mind and my heart. Do I want to have children? I don't want, but I love children. I mean, I've been working with kids for over 10 years. And then I realized the reason I didn't want, or I didn't want it at that point, it was because I didn't want them to have these emotional wounds. I don't want to pass them on.
Yeah.
And then at some point, I also realized, it's a whole journey. It's a very long story short. I realized we can avoid those wounds because it's part of the journey of being on earth. Like our soul comes to earth, and then we experience everything to learn and keep expanding ourselves. So I said, if I can avoid that, I can give them the tools, and that's where the magic box for children came. Basically, to give children all the tools I wish I had when I was little for my children, your children, and all the future generations to come. That's the mission behind the Magic Box for Children. And not just for the children, also for our inner child. Basically, when we connect with our inner child from another place, when we're present, when we enjoy, when we can actually be with ourselves, when we connect, when we heal, that's another level to connect with children. And I'm not just talking about moms, parents, educators. It's about all of us because we're all children. And that is the mission behind the Magic Box for Children.
I think this is so beautiful and such an important conversation in this era that we're in, where there's like acceleration of technology and our world is going through all kinds of transformations, honoring the inner child. Because, like you said, so many of us have those wounds and they were unavoidable. And it's not to blame or shame anyone that was an influencer in life, it is part of the human experience. But we can improve and create prevention and really honor. And I think you're onto something so key, Ana Cristina, is like by honoring our own inner children and doing that work, we are then meeting our children as the healed version of ourselves. So we've done that growth, and then we're I truly believe that every loving thought, every loving feeling, every loving action creates the kind of world that we want to see. It's the be the change paradigm, right? And so I think that's really extraordinary. And I love that you're creating, not only it's not like a toolbox, it's a magic box, right? Because there is magic in a lot of these things. So can we talk a little bit about what's inside the magic box and how, like, in someone meeting you, whether it's like a family or parents coming to you or educators, because you have that background doing early childhood educator, how are they getting to access that magic box? What are they? Maybe you don't have to tell us what's everything in the boxes. I'm sure there's some mystery in there too. But what are their, like, what's the first things that they can expect to discover within themselves as they start to use these tools?
Oh, I love that. That makes me really excited to share about it. The Magic Box, it's a whole ecosystem of emotional growth, emotional education for children and adults. And I have different, this is why I call it ecosystem, right? Because I actually have coaching to heal and reconnect with your inner child. I also have edu consultant to guide, especially people who are doing, homeschooling and all this. Basically, because I've realized in my journey of being an educator, we want to give the children the tools sometimes, but we can't give something that we don't have. Or
Mm,
if we have to practice more, then okay, then let's do it all together, right? So that's why I also have edu consultant. I'm based in New York, and I just recently started doing emotional education, art classes, and music all together
beautiful.
combined. And that's pure magic for
Mm,
children. And this is why I call it magic, because at the end of the day, it's just transformation. It's magic, And
mhm.
I feel like I connect pretty, like, very good with kids in that way. My inner child is like so open, so here. So, and the other way that I'm doing it, I'm working on my books, the children's book. It's a full series of books called The Magic Universe for Children.
That's beautiful.
This is also the first time that I'm going to share, but it's a collection of books that basically, when the main characters go, when they open it's a literally a wooden box, like a wooden old chest. When they open it in the
Wow.
story, they go to a magic universe where they experience all these challenges. That's where they get the lessons. Then they come back, like they go to another dimension. It's like a portal,
Hmm.
and then they come back to life, and then that's when they learn the lesson. And also at the end, there is a message for the adult guiding the children, for the inner child. So it's the lesson for the children and for the inner child. And something else to mention, I also have a huge wooden thing for the classes. For the classes, basically, once I open it, that's where the classes, the activity, everything comes from. And maybe at some point, I would like to make like small magic boxes for actually give to children. But
Cool.
since I'm kind of new, this is what I have for now.
I think it's incredible. So it sounds like a lot of the work that you do, so you're creating products that inspire children to and the parents to really connect intergenerationally through magic. It's real, I mean, it's funny. We talk a lot on the show, Ana Cristina, about how we normalize miracles, and that children are not only our greatest teachers, in that they mirror, the work that we still need to do, and they show us so many beautiful qualities of what it is to be fully alive. They're also our greatest leaders because of the way that they live, because of their open-heartedness, their vulnerability, their courage to do things that they haven't done before, like learning how to climb or walk or, talk. I mean, I envision a world where we all kept that momentum alive and who we would become if we weren't indoctrinated with all these limiting beliefs that happen at a certain age. But like you're saying, we can prevent that and we can keep this
Yeah.
expansion going. So it sounds like a lot of the beautiful real connections you do are also in-person real life events, correct?
Yeah. I'm starting to do events in person. Yes,
That's
this is
beautiful.
pretty new. Yes,
Yeah.
because I also want to create community. I've
Yeah.
been seeing a lot of people, like, I don't want to say it feels like a challenge, for some people. I'm going through this, and then another family, I'm going through this. So let's get all together, because real, community is huge. When we are working on something, we have support, we have people to share, we learn from each other. So I want to create community. And since I'm here in New York, then I start with my area, and
Yeah.
eventually get some other areas, because I want the mission to expand as big as possible.
That's beautiful. Well, I have a friend in New York who's he was on the show. His name's Paul Schaffenberger, and he works with parents and children. He has a community on school, and I'd love to share more about school with you. And it's all about connecting children and parents through doing art. So I have too have done workshops combining watercolor and music, and I've also experienced some of that magic, especially oddly enough, in the parents because I would bring all kinds of weird instruments and boom whackers and all kinds of things, and I would just play them out. And I'm not someone who likes to control process. I like allowing the creative process, but especially why I choose watercolor is because especially wet on wet watercolor, where you wet the paper first and then play with the color, it all the colors kind of and
Flow.
it
Yeah.
flows, and so it's a letting go process, and what emerges often is so beautiful in the images. So always ask the grown-ups in the room, the parents in the room or grandparents. I say, you know would you like to do some watercolor? When they're first sitting down, they're like, ah, no, that's kids stuff, and they always say that. And then about 3 minutes in, I see a change in their eyes as they're watching their children do, like, playing with just pure color, and it going everywhere and creating these really interesting kind of shapes and patterns, and it's like a dance that you're seeing unfold. And I
Yeah.
ask them again when I see that glimmer, and I say, do you want to do some watercolor? They're like, okay.
That's beautiful. I
So
love it.
I know the magic you're talking about. So that's
Yes,
so
that's
that's
the
really exciting.
magic. Yes,
That's
that's
really
the magic I'm
exciting.
talking about.
Yeah.
Yes.
So there's a lot of newness in your journey right now. New book series and new ways of
Creating.
connecting with
Yes.
people. That's
Hmm.
beautiful. So it sounds like a lot of change you're going through. You talk about your journey. And so let us know more about, like, so you've been doing the Magic Children's Box for you said about 14, 16 months now. Like, it's still
Yeah.
relatively, yeah. So
15.
how has this journey been for you? Like, what has been the most fulfilling, challenging things? What have you learned and grown in applying some of these tools and sharing all these beautiful tools that you've been learning with people?
Oh, that's a beautiful question. And I'm going to be fully transparent here. When it comes from the business side, it's been totally a journey, literally a journey of ups and downs. And I really want to express that. If somebody who's listening, one of your people from your audience, they listen to this, because I know there's a lot of people with beautiful big mission out there. And
Hmm.
sometimes when we feel this calling in our heart, like, okay, this is my mission. Yes, it's so big and I get so scared. Let me tell you something. If you feel it, do it.
Mm,
Do it. I mean, I encourage you to do it, because if you had this mission, if you have this calling in your heart, it's for a reason and it's going
mhm,
to work. Okay. So that's why I want to be fully transparent with that. It's been a journey in terms of the business. In terms of the myself, I've been expanding myself even more. The more I grow my business, the more I grow myself, because
mhm,
I feel like my business is like my baby. It's like expansion of myself, like extension of myself, and it can grow as much as I can grow.
mhm,
And I believe that doing this as a mission, creating your life mission as something that you can expand, it's the best way to reach more people, to reach community, to expand everything you want to do with your heart. And in terms of the magic box, oh my gosh, it's you know what? Every time I create something, every time I connect with more people, I listen to the stories, it's a reminder, this really matters. And it was, at the beginning of the journey, I didn't even know how to actually express, because I got this mission in my heart, this is what I want to do. And the question was, how do I do it? How do I put these tools for children and like everything? I had so many questions,
mm,
but as I mentioned at the beginning, I believe we're always being guided, and we meet the right people at the right time in the right place. Everything aligns together in divine order. So it's been a journey between connecting with the people, listening to the stories, connecting with the kids, doing the work, doing my personal work, and building all together, holding myself and holding the mission has been magical.
That's so wonderful, Ana Cristina. And I think you really touched on some key points that I think are really important. Thank you for encouraging our audience to follow their hearts and dreams. That's what Lightheart Vision is about too. It's about really building those conscious bridges between communities and community builders like yourself, because we are stronger when we work together. And the other thing you said that's so important to me is, the ta talking about how important this work is. Like we've probably heard different iterations of like how much of a disservice it is when we don't follow through with our calling, when we don't use our voice. It can be there are people who are, you know, who we have the opportunity to ignite in their journey. And so when we don't follow through with listening to our inner guidance and that those divine whispers to call our hearts forward, there's people who are not getting the benefit of, being exposed to our gifts. So thank you for shining. I think that's a really important um a very important reminder is that, it's in working, it's in the service that you really see how important it is. Because I feel like so many entrepreneurs can get in their heads because it can feel lonely at times, especially when you're building, when you're in the unknown. People might not even understand what you're doing because it's outside of the box, like they just don't get it. But it's that perseverance, and like you said, like we need to keep growing because we're the bottleneck usually of our own mission. So in us continuing to serve, to continuing to show up, that really is what allows it to grow and allows us to connect with the people we're meant to serve here in this life. So thank you
Yeah.
for being an example of that. What would you say has been the biggest learning? Like there's the encouragement there, the inspiration, but in terms of like actually the rubber meets the road, getting traction and with your business, what would you say has been important in sharing um, for those people who might feel the inclination but are afraid because they don't know what they don't know, or they know it's going to be a lot of work, or what would you say to them?
Well, before I answer your question, I would like to add something here. Uh,
Absolutely.
you mentioned something like it's doing like you're doing service, right? But at the end of the day, I believe that it's like we are all medicine for each other.
Mhm.
We are helping someone else and they are also helping us,
Mhm.
because the same way I also guide someone in the journey is like also reconnecting even more with myself, even more with my inner child, and especially when we create community, it's like we help each other. There's always a reason why we meet the people, we connect with this person, with the community and everything. It's basically, I call it, we're medicine for each other. Every single one
Mhm.
of us is medicine. And yes, it's totally a disservice when we don't use our voice. And at the beginning, it might feel like, can I, at least from my experience, especially with the podcast, when I started the podcast, I was like, should I really do it? Like I'm scared to put my voice out there,
Mhm.
especially, when it comes from being vulnerable
Mhm.
with everyone, especially as I don't know if you mentioned before, but I was born in Mexico and this is my second language. So for me, having the accent and doing everything, and then I was like, and this is the question, and this question, it's a bridge from to the answer that to the question that you asked me, right? This is the bridge. When I remember the why, when I remember the mission, when I remember the purpose behind, there's no fear.
Mhm. Mhm.
Like it goes away, when you go back to yourself, when you feel, I feel it, I call it, when I align my body, my mind, my body and my soul in the same frequency.
Mhm.
And then you remember the why, you connect with the mission that you feel in your heart. That's the fuel, right? That's when you're like, okay, this is what it is. When I've been through moments in the journey of, entrepreneurship, like sometimes I feel like, I don't know if I'm doing this well, like the moments that we all have it. If you're an entrepreneur, you understand what I mean. You feel like, I don't know if I can do this, this is
Mhm.
too big, I'm scared, I don't know what's next. When I get to those points, I remember the why. I
Mm,
remember my inner child when I was a child, all the work that I took. And I also think about my future children,
mm,
and not just my future children. When I look at kids, when I just met Luciana on a video, and I think about them, I'm like, no, this is the reason, this is the why.
mm.
Just remember the why, and that's gonna give you everything to keep going.
Yeah, that's so beautiful, and I feel like so important, and also truly simple in the best of ways. Like I feel like it can take a lot to get to simplicity, especially in entrepreneurialism and in its nutshell. Like for me, I know opening that door and realize, oh my God, there's so much I don't know about everything. I don't know about marketing. I don't know about social media. I don't know about sales. I don't know about and at the end of the day, what you just said, I think is the most important thing. And I believe we're entering into an era all those all what we thought we knew as a species is starting to fall away, and it's coming back to the simplicity of the importance of who we're here to serve and why we're serving, and then all those other things of how they, like you said, there's a divine order to things. So as long as we are connecting our, and I love to me that's so powerful what you said, and it's very true, is because when we come into the form, we tend to get scattered in a way. Like our mind goes in one direction, our body goes in another direction, and our soul, often does not have like the opportunity to express because of whether it's conditioning. Someone told you were stupid, so your mind took that belief on, and then you stopped running around because someone told you to stop running. You're going to hurt yourself. So we start containing ourselves and taking on these armor, and then we live a life of fear, and I feel like entrepreneurism is like once you make the decision, like I'm doing this, I'm going to figure out. You have to start looking at all those pieces of armor that you've accumulated, and look at the beliefs behind them. Is it true? Like, is it true that I'll fail, or that that it's not good for me to be vulnerable and share my real voice about something? Meanwhile, like there's other people waiting for permission to shine their light too, and I feel like the brave ones who do take a lead in their life, we ignite one another. So I love that you're at the heart of what you're doing, Ana Cristina, is to really give voice to the children, because they remind us in the most powerful ways, when especially when they're their youngest, of who we really are. And if we can listen to them, by listening to our own inner child, I mean, that's powerful. That's life change. That's world changing stuff we're talking about. So I'm so honored to be on this journey with you. So what do you see this evolving into? I know sometimes we're in the unknown as entrepreneurs, we don't always see, but we do. It sounds like you're very connected to your mission. What is your vision for the children's box?
Before I answer
Magic
your
box for
question,
children, pardon
yes.
me.
Before I answer your question, I would like to add two little things here.
Of
Number one,
course.
you got to the point. That's exactly why I named the podcast Speaking in the Voice of Children.
Mm,
Because we speak in the voice of our children now and our inner child. That's the mission behind. I want to give them the voice.
mm,
So many kids, sometimes we learn these limiting beliefs even before we start to speak, even before we we learn to communicate with our voice, and that is the mission behind. I want to use my voice for them, to speak for them. That is the mission. And another thing, basically, I ask myself this question: what if we can go through life with the mindset of a child? What if
mm,
we go to the journey of entrepreneurship with the mindset of a child? You know, a child, when they start to walk, they don't go through life thinking if they can walk. How many times do they fail? Like fail,
yeah. They
yes, I
fall,
tried,
literally,
it
they
didn't work.
fall.
They fall.
Yeah.
I tried, it didn't work. I tried, it didn't work, and they keep going. It
Mm,
happens. What if we go through life, us as adults, through our life mission? What if we actually do our calling with this mindset of
mm,
being present in the moment, enjoying life, enjoying the journey, and keep going until it happens? As you mentioned before, we can be anything we want. Literally, we can be anything we want. That's also our That's also one of the missions. It's all aligned. That's why I call it an ecosystem. It's a lot, involves a lot. And now going back to your question, how do I see the magic box for children? Where do I see it? I have a big vision, and I think that's one of my gifts. I like to dream. That's why I connect a lot with children.
Mm.
I dream a
So
lot.
beautiful. Yeah.
And I see these as a whole movement, and not just in this country, and not because I was born in Mexico. I want this for every single children because I
Mhm.
believe that they deserve to have these tools. Doesn't matter where they are from, doesn't matter the status, doesn't matter the financial
Mm.
situation, nothing. We all deserve this. And I want to break these cycles, because
Mhm.
they have so much, as you mentioned, they are our teachers, the greatest teachers, and they deserve this. And I want to give them all. And that's why I look for ways, when I want something, I'm like, how do I do it? I go like, okay, I go to the question, but I also connect with myself, because if you only go to your head, it doesn't work.
Right.
So that's when the ideas start to come on, like the books. Eventually, I would like to have something, with AI for adults, not for the kids.
Mhm.
And some toys or whatever is aligned with the purpose, not just the business, because yes, there is the business area, but for me, it's the purpose what matters the most.
Mhm.
Whatever is aligned to bring this magic to the world and make it as big as possible, that's what is coming to the magic box.
Yeah, I love that, Ana Cristina. Like reaching all children. I think, I mean, you're talking to a man here who has been obsessed with an idea of heaven on Mother Earth for decades now, and I do believe that we have the possibility for it exists within each of us. And it's not something super complicated. It's actually like what you said is about being the voice of the child, listening to that inner voice of the child. And even Christ talks about how it's only through the eyes of a child that we can enter into the kingdom of heaven. Why would he say something like that? I mean, it seems kind of like an odd thing to say, but he's reminding us of that state of consciousness that we know when we're children, that inner sense of joy for no reason at all, the recognizing the miracle that life is, being in that state of wonder, realizing that love is real because you feel it so intensely for your parents, for people, until you start getting hurt. And then especially when the grown-ups in our world don't have the tools to hold space and the emotional capacity to just allow us to feel. Because I mean, pain and all the emotions are just a natural part of life. But how many of us grew up in homes where a lot of those emotions were suppressed, right? Like, and the thing that I've come to realize, I don't know, I'd love to hear what your perspective, especially as you have tools to deal with these things in your magic box for children. It is like when we start suppressing feelings like sadness or anger or frustration, and when we start bottling it in because it's uncomfortable, we recognize it's uncomfortable for the grown-ups and they don't know how to handle it. So then we start stuffing it and we notice that we take on some of the tendencies, maybe like in a lot of homes. I know that there are coping mechanisms, like say it's eating foods that maybe make you feel satiated but numb you out, or maybe it's binge watching television, or it could be anything, right? Shopping till you're dropping, especially this time of year. It could be so many things, right? And so if we suppress the capacity to feel those other feelings, we also are starting to dim the light on that natural joy that it wells up in us when we're very young. So how do we start honoring the voice of our own inner child from your perspective, if we're hearing this and starting to think like maybe we have children, or we're interacting with children, and we want to start looking at these parts of ourselves that have been pushed away? How do we open the door to start that process?
Oh, that's a really good question. And it's a very profound question, actually, because I believe when we suppress our emotions or feelings, we are denying ourselves to fully enjoy the experience of being alive.
Mm.
100%. And that's the difference when you mention the kids, they living in this state of wonder, of greatness, exciting, everything. That this is why you see a child looking, like watching at the snow, and it's magical, the leaves, the wind, everything. They enjoy life. And we stop ourselves. Basically, we don't allow ourselves to enjoy life. And there's a difference when you allow yourself to feel everything, because there is light and there is darkness, and when you experience also darkness, you actually appreciate even more the light, right? You can actually sense the difference. So basically, when you allow to feel these emotions, these feelings, when you recognize them, when you're thankful, that's another thing that literally changed my life. Gratitude. When you are thankful because you know this is happening for you to learn something, this is happening for you to go to the next level, to expand yourself, that's when real transformation happens. That's when you actually connect with yourself, when you connect with your inner child. Like if something is happening and then you feel like overwhelmed or something like that, like ask yourself, put your heart in your heart and ask yourself, what does my inner child need now?
Mm.
Right? And then once you go back to yourself, you reconnect, then life flows very different. And I'm not just telling you this to be like, okay, what is she talking about? Just do it, try it yourself, and you're going to experience something different, especially when you're connecting with children. When you come from this state of being present, when you come from this same level of wonder, you connect with in a different level with them. It's totally different dynamic.
Well, that's so beautiful. I can so see that in my mind how when we're connected with what our inner child truly wants, well, of course we can hear the voice of the children around us so much more clear. I mean, it makes so much sense. And yet, this seems like one of the biggest dilemmas in the world. So many people don't know what they really want. A lot of what they think they want is some form of achievement or game or gain, I mean, like a material gain, because they believe it will give them probably that feeling that they're looking for. So it's really that opposite paradigm, right? It's the be, do, have. So when you are enjoying life, well, then you get to do more things because I mean, if you are enjoying life, you're more inclined to go play in the snow and then have the experience of, the tobogganing or whatever, and even meet the people that you meet. And so many people, I don't know if it's from the institutionalization or just the conditioning of being human in our world, we think that, well, before I go and, enjoy life, I have to have X amount of dollars. I have to have the fancy car. I have to do this. Then, when I have all these things, then I will
Then
get
to
to
be
enjoy
happy.
life.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
So I love how simple you just made it. So that connecting to your heart, asking your inner child. It's funny. We've talked on the show about like seeing us ourselves as like trees and how trees have the inner rings of their their younger versions. And I feel
Mhm.
like we all are like this. Like we have every part of us
Oh, that's
within, right?
beautiful.
And we
Yeah.
still have a baby. When the first Christmas that I was by myself because of the lockdowns, my family was very afraid, so I ended up having Christmas by myself, and I walked up and down the airport parkway here in Ottawa, back and forth, and I had just done. You mentioned Tony Robbins. I did my first Tony Robbins event. It was a live event, but it was the first Zoom online event. It was a Date with Destiny. So I kind of
Mm.
started usually where people end, I started, and my friend invited me to this Date with Destiny. And in that, one of the meditations in that very transformative experience was a meditation where I saw my inner baby. I had this, it was my earliest memory, and I was on my back and I couldn't roll over. And I didn't realize how young I was. In telling the memory to my sister, she's like, Nathaniel, you must have been like only a few months young. And I said, I
Yeah.
guess so. And I could remember my mom hearing her cook in the background and everything. And I remember, knowing my dad was not home and the blanket around me and seeing like kind of soft gaze of the toys around me and stuff. And just the feeling. And the meditation was to go back for the moment right before that moment happened. And when I did that, I hadn't fully, my consciousness had not fully immersed into my baby's body. As crazy as that sounds to maybe some
Wow.
people, And so I went into that moment, and from that moment, it was such an expansiveness because I could feel and hear everything my mom was thinking. I could feel my dad and what he was going through at work. Like I had access to so much more, and I had more freedom to travel and but I realized I had a decision to make that I had to fully immerse into my baby's body to have the full experience of being a human. It was the only way, right?
Yeah.
And in doing that, it was almost like there was a pain. I'm like, oh man, now I can't roll. Like I can't fly, I can't roll. And but in contemplating this meditation, I walked up and down the airport parkway that day of Christmas Day. This was quite a few years ago now, like 4 or 5 years ago. And and this song came to me, and it was just simplest song, and was just "I love you, baby," and
Mm.
it was, and I kept repeating it, with all that I am. I love you, baby. I love you, baby, with all that I am, with all that I am, with all that I am. And I just kept singing that
Oh,
over
that's so
and
beautiful.
over and over again. And then I started realizing all the people passing me, I'm like, oh shoot, they have inner babies too. So I started singing to like the bikers and like the cars, and it was an oddly mild December day in Ottawa. And then I started realizing like Mother Nature, all the creatures, and I just started singing to everyone. I realized it was a song for just honoring the baby and everyone. It felt like a gift that I'd been given from divine to share. And it was the first song that I sang to Luciana when she was born. And also on our first date, Julie and I shared like all like really out loud, and she thought it was a song I wrote for her, but I'm like, no, no, this is a song. It's for everyone's baby. So,
Still, still
yeah,
involves you, baby.
of
It's still for
course.
her, for
It's still
sure.
for, well, it's for all of us,
Yeah.
right? And I
Yeah.
feel like for me, that's why I wanted to share that, is because I feel like when what you say is to me is so profoundly true, because all we have is this present moment, right? And we tend to think very linearly as human beings, but when we realize that we actually have these parts of ourselves, it's not an idea that our inner child, like that 8-year-old self that, got maybe bullied a little bit, and we swallowed some of that pain, like that's still a part of us. It's not like it just disappears somewhere, it's still, we're still connected to that. We're still connected to our little baby who is there and just, fully dependent on our mothers and fathers, for love. And anyways, I wanted to just bring that in because I think it's an important part of what you're doing, because you're helping people with this magic box. And I'm still super curious about what is this box. And you talk about it as an ecosystem, and you talk about children opening up these wooden boxes and all these tools. To me, it's like I see it like, I love that you're a dreamer, because I could see this, being so interactive in terms of, spaces that could be created, and adventures in nature, and like just really helping grown-ups enter into those mindsets of being a child again and playing, and how important that is. Anyways, that's my reflection of what you're doing. I'm just excited.
Yes, I love it. It's basically the tools, and I call it, let me tell you why I call it the magic box for children, because that was actually the first thing. Once I got the mission, the calling on my heart, I wanna name this the magic box for children. Just like that. Like I knew it was a message, I knew it was gonna be the name was gonna be the magic box for children.
So cool.
I call it like that because it's basically the tools, the box with tools for the children for life, the children and our inner child. Like I mentioned before, if something is going on in life, if you feel overwhelmed or anything is happening, you go back to yourself and you take, like, just imagine this, right? You take one of your tools, your inner tools, you use them, then you put them back, and then you can keep going with life.
Mhm.
You go, you face a challenge, you come back to yourself, you get one of your tools, you use them, you put them back, and then you keep going. You can also share your tools with your children, with your friends, with your family, with your loved ones. That's the that's the magic of this, right? And it's literally like, imagine a magic box, and I have it physically. And that's the mission, also have it, like at some point have like little, like boxes so children can open it, and they can get the book inside of it, they can get activities, they can get games or like educational toys so they can actually use them. Because sometimes I feel like I think like a child. I see something and I enjoy, like it's just magical when you can go back to that state, and enjoy life and be there present in the moment, right? So
Mhm.
I feel like if I have it here, I want to see it, I want to touch it, I want to
Yeah.
listen, I want to enjoy, right? So that's why I want to bring this physical tools, toys, and the books for the children. It's a I call it an ecosystem because
Mhm.
it involves a lot, so many different things, and even the podcast for adults.
Yeah, that's so it's a wonderful. I feel like I want to connect you with our friend Shua Mana, who
I would
created
love to.
it's more around probably more grown-ups, but he calls them the awareness games, and he's created all kinds of social games that really help people connect with their authentic self in community. And so he's going to come into our school community and do a workshop at some point, probably more of like a play shop, knowing him. But similarly, he's had this inspiration to really help people, but very different kind of perception. But I can see when you talk about an ecosystem, I think about like, all these diverse gifts coming together because as people engage in the magic box for children, it's going to expand, right? You're going to discover new tools, and I'm wondering, Anna Cristina, pardon me, how was there one particular tool or activity that really sparked this in you? Because, like I know when I did Date with Destiny, I was exposed to all these interesting inner tools that I had never not really thought of. Was there something like, was there a moment where you're like, whoa, like this particular tool has changed my whole paradigm, and I want to know everything. I want to gather them. I want to put them in this magic box. Do you do
Yes,
you have that?
I do have one right away. Personally, is meditation.
Mm,
Why? Because meditation allows me to align my body, mind, and soul in the same frequency and being
mm,
in the moment.
yeah.
Allows me to feel myself, to reconnect with my inner child, to appreciate everything that's happening for me and be grateful for that.
Yeah.
And it's not just meditation, right? It's a
Sure.
whole, like a lot of tools, but the one that literally changed my life
Mm,
was meditation. So I went from, and this is not like I was born like feeling like this, and this is
mm,
why I created this, because I wasn't born like, yes, and enjoy the moment and everything. Yeah, I mean, yes, I was born, when I was a child, I was in this state of wonder. But then at some point I started to grow up, and then I start creating this beliefs and everything that we all go through, right? So I went from seeing the sunset to actually enjoying the greatness of a sunset, to
mm.
seeing, just watching the snow, to be like, this is magical. And I mentioned the snow because it's snowing right now in New York.
Yeah.
So
Here
I
too.
opened the window and I was like, it's just magic.
Mm,
Listening to the birds from, oh, that's beautiful, to, oh my gosh, this is greatness. Like, just listen to
mm,
this. So my life made a huge flip, when I started meditating. And again, as I mentioned, it's been a journey of different events in my life, and a lot of inner work, a lot of awareness. But the number one tool has been for me meditation, and the cherry on the cake, gratitude.
Ah. So, I love that you mentioned that. Like meditation to me also has been probably the most important tool of my
Yes.
life. I mean, and when you talk about connecting body, mind, and soul, like to me, that is a perfect expression of that. And as simply as I have found it, I just feel like it's a profound way of listening. And how
Yes.
many of us really give ourselves the space to really listen? Because like when you mentioned the greatness of a sunset, well, that's a capacity to listen to the sunset, not just with our ears, but with the fullness of our being, right?
With your
And
whole body, all your
yeah,
senses.
all
Yes.
the senses.
That's something different than just watching the sunset.
Yeah. Well, the
Yeah.
mind, it's interesting because meditation is really, to me, it's a training for the mind to stop overriding the present, right? it's called the present for a reason, and the mind always wants to either jump back or jump forward into the future. It's always looking for like, okay, what's important? What's okay, sunset. Okay, I know what a sunset is. What's the next important thing? Like, and I feel like especially so many entrepreneurs can get in these cycles of like, okay, my goals, my what's my KPIs? What's, how many,
Yes.
and you get into this, these beta cycles, and you stop allowing just the beauty of life to really soak in, and so I really value that you brought that into the conversation, Ana Cristina, and because of knowing who you are, that you are actually introducing this to children. Um, I think that's so valuable. Like my daughter is starting to do yoga beside us, and she's starting to
Oh,
mimic things, that we do. I mean, she's always been mimicking. Now she's repeating words and stuff, but the fact, like, I meditate every day. If I don't meditate, I don't feel quite myself.
mhm.
And I don't know about you, but sometimes I can meditate for like 10, 20 minutes and feel like I had 8 hours of sleep. It's pretty amazing.
Yeah.
The power of it when we really tune in, connect, go into the stillness, and then just yeah, it's an amazing, amazing tool. So I love that, and I love the cherry on top. It's so funny because tomorrow in our school community we're starting a 7-day gratitude tune up. I'm calling it because everyone's doing challenges, and I'm like, I don't really want gratitude's not a challenge. Let's call it a tune up because let's
Yes.
let's tune into this greater appreciation. And even in the letters, he talks about like gratitude was the state of consciousness that most of the miracles that flowed through him, that's what allowed them to flow through, is his state of gratitude, knowing that divine consciousness already has all the solutions. It already knows what perfectly fulfills us. And so when I meditate, that's what I'm tuning into. I'm like, oh, I'm tuning into the creator that already knows what we need, right? So is there, now, I mean, meditation, a lot of people hear meditation, and I you probably hear this a lot too, especially with parents, like, oh, I can't meditate. I can't I can't sit there, like, my
Yes.
thoughts are just crazy, or like, or they just don't really know what it is. So how do you introduce the topic with people who maybe it's the first time, being exposed to meditation, how do you approach it?
Yes, that's a good point actually, because it's sometimes it's not only about I've never done it before, it's also about this is my religion and this is not allowed to my
Hmm.
religion.
Hmm.
That's a huge one. So basically another way to introduce in do this like an introduction, is let's regulate your nervous system. It's a way to regulate your nervous system so you can calm, listen to yourself, and then align yourself so you can keep going. Easy. Just regulate your nervous system.
That's beautiful.
What
I
we
like
do
that.
is basically the same thing. How do we regulate our nervous system? Let's just breathe. Let's blow to the flowers. Let's blow to the sun. Let's all blow together. Inhale, exhale. Let's regulate your nervous system. Easy. That's
I
part of
love that.
meditation. It's the same, right? You
And it
meditate.
sounds like science versus woo woo that a
Exactly.
lot of people, meditation, what's that?
Exactly.
Okay,
Exactly.
okay.
And it's all aligned, right?
Yeah.
Same purpose. Because again, at the end, yes, it is what it is, it's the mission, the business. But for me, is the purpose behind
Mhm.
that. That's
Yeah.
what matters. Yes.
Yeah, yeah, and I love that you have that discernment to be able to introduce this very important practice in a way that honors people where they're at. I think that's really beautiful. If I ever encounter that, I'm definitely going to use that because I know the power of meditation, and I mean, on your podcast, I told you about, Christ appearing to me in the forest and all this stuff, and I went to a lot of different churches, and this was actually because I was trying to understand, like, I'm a man of science, like, I believe that there is a understandable, comprehensible truth in our in life, like, there, we can understand, there's a language of science, there's a language of mathematics, we can come to some greater realizations through a discernible language that, I believe that is the modern language of mysticism, and what I encountered in a lot of those places was exactly what you said. There was a fear of meditation because there was this idea that if I go into stillness, if my mind stops continually turning to Jesus or whatever, then it will allow an evil thing to come in if I go into stillness. And I was like, I always thought that was a very odd um, perception. And I contemplated where it came from, and I realized that like for me, going into the stillness and actually creating, to me, like the it's like music, right?
Yeah.
The only way music can happen is from the space between the notes. Otherwise, it's just going to be a drone. It's the space around us and the stillness that allows the expression of life. So I always found that when I would go into the stillness, it allowed me more capacity to express and to connect with the creator. And I could understand too from a religious framework that if you want people to fall in line with an order and structure and to obey, and I know there's reasons for this in society, you don't want a bunch of people who are thinking out, who are connecting to creator and having inspiration and,
Yes.
stuff. It's too dangerous, right? So it's like,
Yeah.
well, don't do that. Don't listen.
And at the end of the day, they get the benefit, right?
Yes,
It
yes.
it's for me, again, it's all about the mission, whether you call it meditation, like for religious or because educational way,
Mhm.
regulate your nervous system or calm down. At the end of the day, it's the same mission. It's the same purpose. It's the
Yeah,
heart of this, right?
yeah. The heart. I got to ask you because I'm sure there's some tools in the magic box for children that relate to the heart, Ana Cristina. Is there one that we could ask you to as a as an exercise that we could practice for those listening? Like, how do we connect with the heart? What is the heart to you?
Well, basically, my number one again is meditation
Mhm.
or regulating your nervous system. Yes.
You're teasing us. You're teasing us here. I know there's more. I love it. I love
That's
it.
my favorite way to
Yeah.
connect with my heart.
Mm.
Right, whether you're meditating, when you focus in your heart, when you feel the energy,
Mhm.
again, I do a lot of pleasing my heart or my heart, and feeling the energy, feeling the power,
Yeah.
and connecting, listening to yourself. It for me is my number one, and that's what when you were asking me that question, like I knew right away, like I know what it is. That's my way, and I will say that one,
Mhm.
the best way, at least for me, that I want to share now
Yeah.
is that one. Connect with
Yeah.
yourself by meditating or regulating your nervous system. Place your hand on your heart and focus on that, right? Because we can focus on a lot of things outside, but when you choose to focus on your inner power, on your magic, your greatness, that's something different.
Yeah, I agree. And two, I think it's an important awareness to what you talk about, like feeling into the heart, because so many people like are not used to like their consciousness. They tend to focus more up here because we've been told like basically the brain is the most important, but just actually putting our awareness on the heart area and listening, even listening to the heartbeat, like that is a powerful tool. Something that I've contemplated because we hear a lot about, the heart, and it's an R name too, right? Late heart vision. And there's a couple things. One thing I wanted to gift to you, 'cause I don't know if we talked about this during our conversation. It's been a while since I listened to it, but you know, there's two things. So we each have a heart, and almost every indigenous culture talks about that the heartbeat and how it is the first sound that we hear when we're in the womb is our mother's heartbeat. It's that natural rhythm that we're all exposed to. So there's that. And then also, for your mission that is, worldwide in scope, maybe beyond, since you're a dreamer too. This, I always thought it was so funny that we called this world Earth in English. We call it Earth. And I always thought it was so weird because, like, it's more oceans than it is Earth. It's more
Right.
sky than it is Earth. And then, I mean, it's all the life on it, like the diversity of creatures, human beings, like some people I know refer to as Gaia, that recognize that beingness of her. But I always thought it was so funny, Earth. And then when I started thinking about our language and how, you talk about the divine timing and the divine order of things. And I always looked at our society, especially the Western society, as very backwards. Like we tend to, it's like the have do be what we talked about. Like when I have $1 million, then I'll get to do what I want and then I'll be happy, and we're backwards, right? And I thought, well, what if divine is putting clues in our language too? Because we know languages and our words are powerful. So earth, well, what happens when I take the last letter of earth and put it in the front and put the horse before the cart? All of a
Mm.
sudden it's heart. It's our heart. And I feel like she has a heartbeat too. And like, so to expand on what you're saying, that meditation, I feel like in my meditations, sometimes my consciousness will expand beyond my own body into the room I'm in, into
Mm.
the my environment, and even down into the earth. And that gratitude piece, I often felt like if I will allow gratitude just to sink down beneath me and say thank you to Mother Earth for all the beauty of the gifts that of my life, my body, and everything's connected to her. um, I feel like that's a way that we can connect with her heart as well. And again, back to your point, it's like it simply is meditation. It's
Yeah.
nothing really more than meditation. It's just bringing your awareness to different parts of that.
Yes,
So,
I love that. And I've experienced that before, like expanding beyond yourself and feeling, right? And for your listeners here, I would like to mention, if this is the first time you're doing it, start with breathing, regulating your nervous system, and connecting, right? Because sometimes we try to go from 0 to 100 and we listen, oh, this person is experiencing this magic of connecting with earth and everything. And I can't even get out of my mind, everything I have
mm,
here. It's okay. It's a journey, it's a process.
mm,
So this is something that I would like to mention, because when I started, and I want to keep it real because this is the truth. When I started, it was hard for me at the beginning
mm,
because I was not used to this, right? And that's how it started, being in the moment, feeling, taking off my socks in the house, feeling, like everything barefoot, feeling that everything you feel in your hands, that's like presence, like people call it mindfulness. It's like a lot of people use mindfulness now. I
mm,
don't really like to use mindfulness, but this is what it is, being in the moment.
mm,
Then you go back to, okay, you start with this. And let me tell you something. I've done it with people, like for the first time, they've never done meditation. They've never took a minute for themselves to sit, close their eyes, and, like breathe. I experienced that with people for the first time, and it was very simple. And
mm,
when they opened their eyes, they were like, wow, that was amazing. I've never had this in my life.
mm.
And it was their first time. They didn't go beyond themselves at that point and everything. But as long as you connect with yourself first, then you can expand to the next level.
Mm. I really appreciate you. So, I mean, we were just talking before the show about my neurodivergent tendencies, Ana Cristina, and I love how you bring this. One of the gifts that I see with you is you have this extraordinary ability to really tune into where people are at in this very present way. And I love the word presence too. I think the presence is actually one of the most valuable um, aspects of life. It's what makes us uniquely us, right? And it's irreplaceable. And I feel like that's why a mourning happens when someone passes on, or because you can't replace someone's presence. And I feel like there is such a gift in being able to meet someone through this very real application. Like you talk about taking your socks off and feeling your feet touching the ground and just listening to your breath. And it is odd to me, and probably from decades of my own contemplation, that as human beings, we don't really do a lot of these simple things. But I understand too, because we make things complicated, we make things complex. So it's a real gift. And I think that your mission is so in alignment with who you are, um, because of those gifts that you have. So again, I really appreciate, because we all have choices in life. I mean, some of us can choose to stay in professions that are shadow forms of what we're really intended to do, or we play it safe and don't allow our vulnerability to shine through, to use our voice. So I really want to express sincere gratitude for you for stepping into this inspiring role and helping people to discover these parts of themselves. It's really valuable.
Thank you. Something else that I would like to share here. For me, doing this, it's also about giving. I feel like, again, it all comes from gratitude.
Mhm.
Been receiving a lot in my journey of life up to now, and I know there's a lot more to come. And I want to give more. Like I receive and I also want to give because this is like, and I mentioned that on the introduction of my podcast, or I think it's at the end. It's like giving what I've received. I'm grateful, I'm thankful for everything I also had so many beautiful souls in my journey, so many beautiful people, beautiful intentions. And this is why they help me align to who I am right now. And I'm meeting even more people. It's a journey. And I want to give that because I've received a lot. So I want to give it too.
That's so beautiful. Yeah, and I can tell that you've been doing so much of that inner work. I think that it's a natural part of the journey to become more like where we come from when we do this inner work. And when I think of what the creator is, at least from my limited perspective, it is this infinite well of generosity. I mean, it's like the sun, right? It just gives and gives. It's like Mother Nature. It just provides every season, providing fruits and everything. And I feel like this is a profound lesson for humanity to find more of its true nature is in embodying generosity. So I think it's a beautiful Ana Cristina, and it's also a remedy too, because I know there's a lot of folks out there who are overgivers, who are they're coming from not necessarily a place of gratitude. They're coming from a place of doingness to um,
Feel better.
to feel better. Yeah.
It's like, oh my gosh, I love that you talk about it because there is a difference between when you're giving from a place of your joyful place, you feel, like your wholeness, than when you're giving from a place of emptiness.
Mm,
And I'm sharing this because I was there.
mm,
This is, I told you, it's been a journey. I was there,
mm,
giving, giving, giving from another place. And yes, you can also give, but it feels different. It totally feels different when you give from these two places, and people receive it different also. And it flows different. It's totally different, right? It's another story when you're giving from this place of wholeness, of gratitude, of you know who you are, you're learning, you're expanding, you're giving from, like sharing everything, it's flowing. It just expands even more, it just goes like easy. And when you do it from this place, then you keep giving, and at the same time you still don't feel fulfilled.
yeah.
That's a
Yeah.
huge point.
And I love the way your distinction early, you said, I know there's so much more coming as well. And I feel like when you're in that flow of abundance, recognizing that this is the natural state of all of existence, like there's this flow. I I I totally resonate with you, and I can speak from experience as well. That in a lot of the professions I was in, I was just, I was over serving, I was over giving, and what I realized the mistake in that was that I wasn't allowing people to show up beside me to really contribute because there was something in me trying to prove myself or that didn't feel worthy, so I need to work harder, and that was coming from a place of lack. And now I feel like Luciana is such a teacher for me, because she just is she's so considerate. It's funny. She's always talking about other people. Like she'll bring up, well, just in conversation, she'll be like that baby that was crying at the library, and she's not even two yet. Like it's amazing, and she always wants to share with us, and I can tell she's not trying to share because she feels like we don't have it. It's because I feel like she feels abundant, and she just wants to share it. So it's such a natural, childlike way of being. I think when the conditions for that child are like are well well surrounded, because I feel like a lot of, even as a child myself, I felt like there was a lot of poverty consciousness in the home. There was a lot of anxiety around stuff, so I would do things to try to make my parents feel better, because I saw that they were in fear in some way or another. So I feel like children are super wise in a lot of ways. Anyways,
100%.
yeah, I appreciate you really you know adding a fulsome voice to us. I feel like so many of us who are feel this calling towards this much bigger vision we can encounter this at certain stages on our journey because like the question, like when I was inspired by some of these bigger questions like world enlightenment, it's like, well, how can I ever like do something like or even contribute in something like that? It's so much beyond me, and so I feel like that brought up a lot of stuff about, you know I had to go through those things about feeling unworthy and feel to grow. I had to grow through it and learn those lessons, and to come into more of a connection with, okay, this is I'm me. I'm a guy who's going to talk. If I meet you in a line, I'm going to talk about divine consciousness probably, and you probably, do something to your imagination, like, oh
Yeah.
wow, like wow, I'll remind you of your own presence and how you're valuable, like, and I feel like I love these kind of conversations, and I really, it warms my heart knowing that you're there in communities helping people connect to that in a way that really honors their childlike nature. I think this is what heaven on Mother Earth is. It's when because I can imagine you doing these beautiful workshops, Ana Cristina, like engaging with people, playing full out from your childlike self, and just igniting the whole room in joyfulness and spirit of generosity and laughter. I just think it's extraordinary, and I love to see uh, this evolve. And I feel like we're working in parallel and cheering you
Yes.
on and supporting you to do this. So I think it's amazing.
Yes,
Yeah.
thank you. And I want to acknowledge you and Julia for doing this, for all the work that you guys have been doing, all the energy and all the love you put here. I can see it, all the organization behind. Sometimes you just watch a podcast, listen to a podcast, but there's a lot behind that. And more than just doing the work is the mission. Again, I always go back to the mission. That's the mission, that's the heart. And I want to acknowledge what you guys are doing. Thank you for using both voices to help the community, to help us all align and bring light to the world. Thank you so much.
I really appreciate you saying that, Anna Christina. And we were talking before the show, like the Love Pod would not. I don't think it would exist if it was just me, because even looking at some of these like CRMs and Zoom, it has so many buttons and stuff, and I'm just like, give me a microphone and I can talk and I can have conversations, and I have been contributing on those things as well. But Julia is such a powerful reflection of me, of divine grace, especially that divine femininity that nurtures goals. I mean, if we think of all all women and mothers who have gone through that journey also of nurturing a child, but I feel like this is the era we're in, and I feel like it's so important that you mentioned the two voices. Like, there is a divine masculinity in life and there's a divine femininity, and they both are interconnected. They're not separate ever from one another, but they have distinct roles. And like, to me, the divine feminine, and this is what Christ talks about in the letters to it, it's the purpose in life. It's the nurturing of goals. Just like a child that grows in our womb, which we all come from, the mother had to protect that child. She had to nourish it properly. And I feel like, light heart vision is a child as well. It needs that love, it needs that nurturance, and it needs that connection to the beautiful beings like yourself, who we all rise together. Like, that's the idea, right? Um,
Yes.
and that's what we're all about. So thank you for seeing us. I really, really appreciate who you are. And I feel like the conversation is certainly starting to come to a natural kind of closing. But before we do, a couple things, and we're excited because we know that Julie is going to be joining you on your podcast soon, in the Voices of Children, and I look forward to listening to that because Julia has such a beautiful voice and has profound journey, and she's in touch with her childlike nature in so many beautiful ways too. So I'm really looking forward to that. I am wondering, so and we'll put it in the show notes, of course, but can you tell our audience where they can find you and how they can connect with the Magic Box for Children and also your podcast as well?
Thank you. Yes. First of all, thank you. I'm so excited to have Julia on my podcast. I know she has so much to give also. And thank you. Going back to the to how can people find me? They can find me on Facebook. On Facebook, it's the Magic Box for Children. literally like that. It's the Magic Box for Children, Instagram, the Magic Box for Children, and the website, themagicboxforchildren.com. On Spotify, the podcast is it's speaking in the voice of children, just like that.
Okay,
Thank
that's wonderful. That's wonderful. Thank you so much for what you do. And Anna Cristina, I want to ask you this really, to me, important question. And it's a simple one, but maybe you've thought of this since you are a visionary and a dreamer. If you could have a megaphone and you could talk to every single child in the world, including the grown-ups, as you say, and everyone could hear you, what would you say?
Mm. It all starts with love and
Mm,
starts with you.
I love that.
Everything starts with love and it starts with us.
Mm, so profound and so succinct. So what a beautiful message. Ana Cristina, I really appreciate your presence. Thank you for being a light in our beautiful world and for all that you do, and most importantly, who you are. I really appreciate you, sister. And
Thank you.
yeah, yeah. So before we go, I'm just going to invite Luciana to wish us a farewell. So I'm going to share my screen and call her up here. I know Julia did a special video with her, so.
The moon is right, the spirit's up. We're here tonight, and that's enough. Simply having a wonderful Christmas time. Simply having a wonderful Christmas time. The party's on, the feeling's here.
We wish you a
Have a new year. Have a new year.
Happy New Year! Can you say Merry Christmas, everybody?
Yeah.
Say it.
Have a new bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye bye.
Love you.
I love you.
We wish you a